Hi, my name is William Harmon, National Ladies Football Development Officer with a remit for coach education. This webinar will focus on the Ready Steady Coach program, which look at the introduction to coaches, and we'll basically look at how do we create a positive club environment, the basics around that, and also the basics around coaching practice in general. So where does the Ready Steady Coach program fit into our overall coach education pathway? And as you will see on the screen, we have plethora of courses, from a formal structure where you will receive certification and an informal structure where you receive no certification, where coaches upskill in various aspects of ladies football. So the Ready Steady Coach program is the basics of coaching. You do not receive a certificate for the Ready Steady Coach program, but as you see where it fits into the overall coach education pathway. For more details around all these courses, you can visit our website on www.ladiesgaelic.ie or email our development support officer on developmentsupport@lgfa.ie for more information. But this visual will give you an idea of where does the Ready Steady Coach program fit into the overall coach education pathway. So if you're a club and you're looking to run a Ready Steady Coach program in your club, basically this is very simple. All you need to do is your target group is targets new volunteers who'd like to assist with running or coach a team in your club. So every year, if you have people who'd like to get involved with your club, the Ready Steady Coach program is perfect in terms of upskilling them in the basics of coaching. Participants must be 16 years of age or over, and it is only about 2.5 hours long in duration. The cost is €100, but you get €50 back if you meet all the criteria regarding the organisation and the rollout of the program. And who should attend? So it's vitally important that club coaches, in particular the league coaches, attend the workshop, because the new volunteers come in place will need to work with the lead coach for the year. So it's vitally important that those lead coaches are in attendance on the night. For to run in one club, you need to have 6 new volunteers interested in helping or coaching or running a team. So if you have 6 new volunteers coming on board on a coaching capacity each year, the Ready Steady Coach program, again, is an ideal way to just introduce them to the basics of coaching. These are for people who just want to assist, whether it be just with moving cones or and basic volunteer coaching roles. If you don't have the minimum numbers to run one in your own club, then you can also join up with a neighbour club or a few clubs in your area to run a Ready Steady Coach. So that option is available to you as well. All that is required is a meet room and an indoor sports hall for to run the workshop. So again, if you have any more information, go onto our website, www.ladiesgaelic.ie, or even contact development support at lgfa.ie for more information around the Ready Steady Coach program. It's an ideal opportunity to, introduce people to the basics of our game before they set off in their coaching career that year. So what are the outcomes of this webinar? At the end of this webinar, we will focus on, provide advice to new volunteers or volunteers in general interested in helping with coaching or running a team within their club. We'll look at the coaching skills around ladies football and the main teaching points. And we'll also recognize, the basic coaching principles required for an effective coaching session. We always ask people that if they're walking down the street, whether it be a member, a player, a club, a parent, a coach, we'd always ask them, could you describe your club in 3 words? Or what words would you like to have associated with your club? At the end of the day, our clubs provide a great opportunity for people to get involved in our game. So, you want people to have a positive outlook or view of your club. And those words are really your beliefs and your values. And they determine the approach that you're going to take within your club. And also will ultimately decide whether people want to get involved or stay involved in your club. So it's very important that you have that clarity around what your beliefs and values are, because it will ultimately determine how you'll approach your coaching program. So from an LGFA point of view, if you look at our coach education framework, we adopt the same principles. So what underpins why we do what we do from a coach education perspective? So we have these coaching principles. So we always want these words to be associated with our program. So fun and enjoyment, that it's inclusive, that it's value-driven, that it's challenging, that it's relevant, that it's about the process versus the result or the outcome. It's always about the player. The player is always in the center of our decision-making. Developmentally age-appropriate, the activities that we do are specific to the age group that you're coaching. It's always about excellence. We want all our players and coaches to reach their potential, to be the best they can be. And we want high standards every day for everything we do, whether it be an under-8 coaching session or an adult coaching session, that they're the best they can be in terms of organisation, delivery. Focus is always about direction. So it's all about a clear focus, having that long-term development in mind at all times, and having role models. So if you can bring players through your system and you have an adult team, then those players could be future role models, whereby the girls will look up to those players and want to be those players in 5, 6, 7 years' time. There's active, that it's game-based, it's varied, and it's creative. And these are the key coaching principles that underpin what we do from a coach education perspective. And these are the words that we like to be probably utilized if we were to ask anybody walking down the street what they think of the LGFA coach education program. So similar approach should be adopted in a club, whereby these words should always just roll off the tongue of people, whether it be a parent, a coach, or a player in your club, around your coach education philosophy and your approach. So let's look at the part one of the pitch stuff. So why do people volunteer? It's someone who wants to give time back or their expertise, expecting nothing in return. So it's not about them, it's about giving something back that will benefit others, and that's important. People want to help out in general. They want to give something back, as I just said, because they were asked. And that's one thing really that I suppose we need to probably just look on a bit further in terms of, don't be afraid to ask people or find out, what could they bring to the club. You'd be surprised how many people are out there that love to help out, probably don't feel confident or confident enough. So just always ask people what areas would they like to help out, and where can we support them in that. Because their friends or family are involved, and because they want to meet new people or develop new social networks. So there could be a lot of people in your community that have just come into the area and would like to meet new people, or get to know people in the community. So it's vitally important that is fostered in your club. So what are the volunteers' roles involved with coaching a team? There's the obvious and there's behind the scenes. So if you look at the obvious roles, we're all aware, obviously, of the coaching aspect. So coaching the players on the session. And also, if we have more people involved, the more quality coaching we can do, because the ratio between coach and player will be minimal, which is benefit in terms of coaching output. Dressing room supervisor and refereeing within coaching sessions. So we need someone to referee the games if we're doing internal games, wherever it may be. But there's also behind the scenes roles that probably people don't probably are aware of that needs to be done as well. So if you have administration, for example, taking attendance at sessions, washing the jerseys and bibs after sessions, filling water bottles, fundraising, organising bus or transport to games, first aid, organising food, maybe it might be just giving something after training or wherever it may be. So there's a load of, I suppose, roles to play in coaching a team and outside of the obvious roles of coaching. Hence the importance of as many people as possible involved with each of your coaching cohorts in your club to maximise your potential and what you're trying to achieve. In terms of volunteer and coach expectations, it's very important they match up, that the volunteer matches up with the expectations of the club, and the expectations of the club match up with the expectations of the volunteer. So what does a volunteer, I suppose, look for when they want to get involved in your club? They're looking for that support and advice. So if I'm someone that wants to get involved in your club in a coaching capacity, I'm looking for that support from the club to say, okay, listen, I'd like to get involved, but I don't know too much about the game. Where can I go or get support and advice to make, just to upskill me in key areas? So that's quite important. They say research shows that that's probably one of the key factors in terms of retaining volunteers in your club, is that continual support advice for your volunteers can't be underestimated. To be valued, to feel part of something, that they feel that their opinion matters, that they can give something back, that they can give something to the bigger picture as well, and that they're valued and feel part of the whole thing. Role clarity. So what is my role, whether it be in an individual session or in the broader spectrum in terms of your coaching group? What is my role? What do you want me to do? And be clear in that. And if you're clear in that, and everybody's clear on their roles, then you will get a more positive output as well. Equity, and of course, a safe environment. But what do the club expect of the volunteer? They expect you to be responsible, trustworthy, and that's important, because at the end of the day, it's the club's onus and responsibility to make sure that the interaction with the players is a positive one. So that trustworthy and that responsibility is vitally important to fulfill their role to the best of their ability. And how small you may think that role is, you do it well. And everybody that does if everybody does a small role well, then you get a maximum output in terms of quality. Ambassador from club, and that's important, because if people get a positive experience in your club, they'll say to 4 or 5 other people in the community who might say, you know what, get involved here. I'm really enjoying myself as an assistant coach or helping out with the coaching team, you know, and I get great support, I get great advice. You know, it's something that you should get involved with. So that ambassador of the club is important. Always, I suppose, giving a positive light about the club to the wider community, which then will also attract more volunteers. Ensure safety and enthusiasm. Just bring that enthusiasm. For that hour or whatever it may be, you're involved with your team during the week, that you're bringing that enthusiasm and all other things are left aside when you enter the gate. But at the end of the day, I suppose what we're trying to achieve is to have the right people to do the right jobs, equal success. So it's important that whenever or wherever you're getting involved, that you're getting involved in a job that you like doing and that you're doing the right job. And that'll equal success. So that's just a small thing around expectations, both from the volunteer perspective and the club perspective. The role of the lead coach is vitally important with new people getting involved. And I go back to the word of, I suppose, those words of advice and support. And you as a lead coach in your club play a huge role. So whether you're doing the 14 lead coach or the 16 lead coach and someone new coming into your coaching team, you play a massive role in terms of, I suppose, making that person feel valued and appreciative and that they want to stay involved. So you're there to develop those coaches. They may be potential lead coaches in 2 or 3 years' time. So your job is there to develop them as people and as coaches. So they could be future coaches. Give them a brief overview of what is expected of them, how many players are involved, how many times you train, what is expected from the broader spectrum in terms of the team and the expectations. Find out what they can bring to the coaching role. So instead of giving them a role, ask them, well, where do they feel comfortable? For year one, what would you like to do? What do you feel you can do in year one? So ask them, and they'll no problem tell you, okay, look, for year one, maybe look, I just like to observe what's going on, maybe help with the water bottles and the attendance sheets. Is that okay? And then they get more confidence as they go along. And when they get that, then they can move on to the next step and next level. Involve the assistant coaches in planning phase. So if you're planning your sessions, guys, it's vitally important that everybody in your coaching team are aware of what you're hoping to do in your coaching session, whether it be that Wednesday night or on the Saturday morning. It's very important that everybody's aware of that and I suppose have a role to play in the planning of your sessions because, again, we're trying to develop coaches as well. So if they get into that good habit early, then that will be only beneficial in 2 or 3 years' time when they become lead coaches because they're going to impart the same sort of, I suppose, process when they get involved. Support assistant coaches in giving their coaching role, give constructive feedback. So when they do coach, give them constructive feedback about what they did well, what they can improve on, get their feedback on how they felt it went and how they can improve. So that two-way communication is imperative. Give them autonomy. And by saying that is that if someone gets more confident as the weeks goes on, then why not say to them, next week you come up with a warm-up. You come up with a warm-up, you feel, you've seen the group for the last few weeks. Off you go. And you come up with the warm-up. Or we're going to do a station on kick passing next week. You come up with the activity for that station. And you can help us with that. So give them that autonomy. And then when they are doing the warm-up or the activity, let them at them. Let them try it out. Let them, give them their space and their time to do that. Okay. And then give them that feedback on their coaching practice. Let them shine, as we always say, because it's nothing worse than, I suppose, asking someone to do something and then stepping in and then probably taking control of the situation again. So in order for someone to get more competent and more confidence in their ability, you need to let them at it, let them give it a go and see where it takes them from there. The role of the assistant coach can have a plethora of ones. So it could be administrative duties like attendance, and that's quite important. Attendance is important because you need to know who's coming on a regular basis and who may not be coming on a regular basis. There may be a kid in your club that hasn't come for the last 3 sessions. Well, maybe then you might ring the parents and say, look, I haven't seen Mary at the training for the last 3 sessions. Is everything okay? Is there anything we do? And just get that understanding and have that connection and understand that, where are those players? What can we do differently? Is it something to do with the coaching practice? It may not. 9 times out of 10, it's nothing to do with the coaching practice or the coaching environment. It may be just other things that are going on in their lives. So just having that attendance is very important. Assist the layout with the coaching session and equipment. I said, putting out cones. That's vitally important. Help you at the start of the session, making sure it's all laid out and ready to go. Is familiar with the plan and role they play within the session. That's, as I said earlier on, that's key. If you have assistant coaches, they need to know what the plan of action is and the role they play in implementing that plan. So if it's a case that you're in a station and you're just, observing one group, or you're just assisting a coach with a group, then you need to know what your role is. Okay, we're just going to watch the kick pass and we're just going to give them a bit of feedback on the skill of the kick pass. Okay, that's my role. I know I have to watch them doing the kick pass and give them a bit of feedback. Again, clarity in your role is clear. That's important. Help implement activities, as I said earlier on, and give it a go. As I said, all volunteers have to start somewhere. Whether you're involved in the sport before or never involved in the sport before, everybody needs to start somewhere. So give it a go. And you don't have to be the world's greatest player or best past player to be the best coach. Anybody can be a great coach, and it's just everybody just by try and error. Just give it a go, try, make mistakes, and learn from them and go again. That's the only way you can learn. As I always say, the kids don't know that you've made a mistake, so just move on. Okay, so just that is a small bit of advice there. In terms of volunteer task chart, I suppose this is just an example of what could you do. So if you have 4 or 5 coaches helping you out, and again, go back to the role clarity, having clarity in your role. Here's an example of what you could do each week where everybody gets experience in each of the roles. You can change the headings, you can have different roles, but this just gives you an example of what it could look like. So, for example, Teresa is looking after the attendance in week 1, but on week 3 she's washing the jerseys, and maybe on week 5 she's going to be doing a coaching assistant. So, as I said, everybody gets experience across the spectrum of all the roles, and everybody has a clear role to play each week. And that makes people feel part of something. They know, okay, my role this week is to help Mary with the coaching. I'm going to be the assistant coach. I'm going to move the cones. I'm going to stand with the group. I'm going to give feedback. Okay, well, that's my role. And that allows me to plan for that for a week ahead then. Okay, so don't underestimate all the roles that people play, because all those roles play an important part in ensuring that you have a positive coaching environment. So from a bigger picture, from a club perspective, briefly, okay, what is your club's vision or philosophy? Or where do you see your club in, I suppose, 2-3 years' time? And I suppose a well-developed coaching philosophy will strengthen your club, because what it does is it gives your club guidance in terms of your coaching program. A positive coaching philosophy will provide you guidelines in your perspective, your purpose, and your approach. How you're going to go about your coaching in your club. And I think that's something that I suppose a lot of clubs need to probably think about and discuss with all the coaches in the club regarding, okay, what is it we're about? What's our objectives? What's our purpose? What's our values? What's our beliefs? And how are we going to go about our coaching in the club? Okay, well, how do we work with players up and down in age? How do we go about that? And how do we communicate that to the key stakeholders, our parents and players? Sometimes coaches or clubs have a good coaching philosophy and good coaching output. Do they practice what they preach? And that's something that, regular reviews are important in terms of, well, how are we doing in line with our coaching philosophy? So regular reflection on your coaching philosophy is important, because I suppose, actions has consequences. So you want to make sure that, you're doing right by your members, which are your players. Here's an example, just one example of what you could be looking at. So, looking at in 2 years' time, and what can you do? And this is a very simplistic template. It's something that you could do across, I suppose, a variety of headings that you want to look at. Here's one that's looking at parental involvement. So currently we have 30% of our parents actively involved with assisting our coaching on their age teams. But in 2 years' time, we'd love to increase that to 50%. Okay, but for that to happen, we need minimum of 4 people involved with each team. So 4, a lead coach and 3 other assistant coaches with that lead coach. And so in 2 years' time, we want to have that I suppose, structure with each coaching. And no duplication roles. So in case of, we don't have Joan coaching the other 8s and the 10s and the 12s, she's with the other 8s, she's coaching the other 8s and doing a great job there. But that's her specific role, and that's her specific area. So how could we do that? Right, we need to look at a volunteer coordinator, and that person could be just a person that randomly goes around and talks to parents and find out what they do, and find out, where would they like to get involved, if they were to get involved, where are their areas of interest, and just building that rapport with parents. You could have a parents meeting at the start of the year to outline, listen, these are all our teams, these are all our numbers, this is the personnel we require for coaching teams, and could they play a role? And if they want to play a role, okay, where can we support them? For example, we could do a race day coach program. If there's anybody interested in the room that'd love to get involved in assisting with our coaching, then we can do a race day coach program and also then do our fundamentals. Supply refreshments at training. So every Saturday morning at our academy, we're going to have tea and biscuits. So obviously the parents probably have to stay around for the under sixes and eights. Okay, give them a cup of tea and biscuits, and the volunteer coordinator just casually walk around talking to people and building that rapport. You'd be surprised how that could develop a good, positive environment and how you get to know people. And you'd be surprised how people will probably say to you at the end of the year, going, what? I observed what you did this year. I like what you're doing. I'd love to get involved. What do I need to do? So just a small idea of looking to the future. And it's important that clubs and coaches, I suppose, continually look at that going forward. So other discussions that clubs need to have are around that positive coaching environment is around self-confidence, motivation, and adequate game time. These are just 3 examples. Again, there could be others. But I'm just going to give you an idea of where coaches need to probably have a clarity around how they're going to deal with these various scenarios, even from a specific coach in group or even as coaches in general. So when you meet on a monthly basis with all your coaches and have these chats, okay, it's just important to probably look at these areas. So for example, a scenario, I'm a goalkeeper in an under 12 team, and a few weeks ago in our last game, I left in 6 goals. I don't want to play in goals anymore. How can you help me improve my self-confidence? So that's a regular one, whereby, we may be playing a team and goals in ladies football is high. So how do we keep that self-confidence of the player? So a few ideas that you could do is, I suppose, outline the role to everybody in the team, the important role of the goalkeeper. Maybe in your training sessions, rotate the players. Maybe get your midfielder in goal for 5 minutes. And then afterwards ask them, well, how did that feel for you? Sometimes they don't see the role of the goalkeeper from a different perspective. They might have a different view on it going forward, and they can empathize with the goalkeeper and how it feels to be the last 9 defense. And at the end of the day, it wasn't the goalkeeper's fault that all the 6 goals went in. It probably, ball probably was lost around the middle of the field and probably went through the defense, and then one person versus another ultimately will probably result in a goal. So getting that understanding as well. Maybe get a person to do goalkeeping activities. Maybe do the coach to keeper workshop, LGFA coach to keeper workshop. And as a coach, get upskilled in that area and maybe do some specific goalkeeping coaching in your sessions. So they're just things that I think coaches need to continually think about in scenarios. Okay, well, what if this happens? How do we deal with it? Or what can we do to upskill ourselves? Another one's been, I suppose, here is I've been playing ladies football for 3 years, but we've never won anything. We lose most of our games, so I'm thinking of quitting. So how do we motivate players that are feeling like this? So again, just a few examples. I suppose evidence shows in our LGFA is that players want to get better and improve and want to get better. So we as coaches need to probably give them that evidence that they are improving, getting better. Okay, they might be winning games, but they're actually developing as players. So that player may have been right-legged, but after 6-7 weeks time, she's kicking off her left leg, and you're showing her that evidence, that improvement by doing probably the performance wheel where you're rating out of 10 where they are in their skills, and 6 weeks later you're coming back and you're doing another rating and say, well, where do you feel you are now? So they now see visually how they're improving. You might do skills challenges in your sessions. Right, we're going kicking the ball over the bar. Right, today, record your score. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. How many points can you score? Next week, okay, guys, we're going to do the exact same activity. Now let's see how you get on. And again, it's just another evidence of improvement and progression, and creates an intrinsic motivation, which is where the person wants to come back because they know they're improving, and that the result of the game probably is not, the real evidence of improvement, okay? Because there's a lot of other factors that are involved in that. I suppose what you could also do is just outline to players the long-term development, that you're there to develop them, that you hope to be playing in 5, 6, 7 years' time, and that there's a clear pathway there for them. But what you could do in games, instead of focus on the outcome, we could say, right, last week, girls, what we'll do now in the backs, if we get 4 blocks in today, that'd be a real success. And you know what? If we get 8 points in the game, we'd be happy with that. That's better than 6 points from last week. So small little kind of motivational tools or little targets or goals within a game without focusing on the outcomes. Now they know, right, we got 5 blocks in, we kicked 8 points. Okay, we're getting better, we're improving. And hopefully then as the weeks go on, they'll get the victory that they deserve. But so again, getting the players to look at the bigger picture. And the final one is looking at here is, I'm 15 years of age and part of the under 16 panel. I never get to start games and rarely come on. Me and the 14s get to play more than me. So how do we ensure adequate play for me? And again, this is a big discussion I think clubs need to have clarity around. I think they need to have a discussion with every coach in the club. Need to sit down and get clarity around, well, how are we going to approach this? Because many clubs are different in terms of their setup. Many clubs have great numbers, and other clubs mightn't have as big numbers. Okay, so just how does this work and how does this roll? And you have to understand the players' maturity levels as well. Just because they may be strong and physical in under 14s mightn't mean they have the maturity to probably play up in age. So just their conversations you need to have. But I just think you need to have clarity around that. So if they are moving up in age, okay, right. If they move up in age, you've plenty of numbers, the older girls play first. So I'm an under 14, going up to under 16, no problem at all. I'm there to assist with numbers, but the older girls who've been training with under 16s, even though maybe those under 16s mightn't be as strong as under 14s in a game, again, no, we play the under 16 girls, and obviously the girls come on then to support us in what we're doing. That's just an example of what you could do. Okay, so there's clarity around the process and what happens in that scenario. But every coach needs to sit down and decide, well, how are we going to go about that in our club? So what do we cover in part one in the ready section? We looked at the volunteer roles with a coaching team, and there's a load of them outside of just the obvious coaching. We looked at you as a club, just the importance, in brief, the importance of having clarity around the coaching objective, purpose, your values and beliefs, and having a defined coaching policy, because that, as I said earlier on, will determine your approach, how you go about, how your coaches, how all your coaches go about their coaching business in your club. And ultimately, that will decide where people want to get involved with you or not. So that's just having a bit clarity around all that is important. And write it down. Don't be afraid to write it down. It might be only 3 or 4 sentences. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be complex. And how do you develop that long-term vision? Okay, well, this is what we're going to do if we've loads of girls playing in an age group. Okay, we're going to keep girls playing to their own age group. If we need girls to come up in age group, this is how we're going to do it. And we'll communicate that to all our players and all our coaches and all our parents. So everybody's aware of what we're trying to achieve. Just a few ideas there regarding that. So let's move on to the study part. What is the role of the assistant coach? And the assistant coach or the lead coach, either or, have a plethora of roles. There's multiple roles, as you see there on the screen. There are loads. You know, develop people, as we said, players are people, so we want to develop better people. We have goals, as I said earlier on, and standards. You have clear instructions and part knowledge. But if there was 6, if I was to kind of probably bring it back to 6 key competencies, they would be build rapport, create that fun and enjoyable atmosphere. I think that's a key role of a coach. To, get to know their players. Give clear instructions in terms of explain what is it if we're giving feedback, you want to give those exact feedback and what is it you're looking for. So they observe, give feedback. If a player doesn't get it, okay, well, you can demonstrate the importance of demonstration. And if you can't demonstrate yourself, then maybe one of the other players can demonstrate. And you're analyzing, making decisions all the time. They're probably the top 6 in terms of key competencies out of a coach should always strive for. But as you see, there's multiple roles. But if you want to bring it down to 6, there'll be the 6 I would probably take out. But your number one role at the end of the day is to look after your players and that they come back to your next session. And if you do all those roles well, you're certainly going to be in a good place and players will want to be involved with you. So just in your own mind, where do you feel you are in those 6 areas and where do you feel you need to improve on? And if there's an area that you feel you're falling down on, and I always say keep reflecting these key areas, because after a session, how do I get on with demonstration? Could I have done that better? Giving feedback. Was I specific in my feedback? Was I too broad in my feedback? And there are things that you can continually as a coach just reflect on. So if there's anything you take away from the webinar, here are 2 acronyms I want you to take away. How to coach a skill. So if you're coaching a skill or an activity, we use the ideal principle. Introduce it. So today we're doing the hand pass, guys. Demonstrate it. Give the key teaching points on the skill. Let the players try it out. Attend to the parents and practice skills. So let them at it. Let them try the skill, whether it be in pairs or in groups or in an activity, wherever it may be. And then look and observe and spot and fix. So if a player is not hand passing the ball properly, you're going to go over and just give them 1 or 2 small little tips to make them try and do better. Okay? So that's the ideal principle. So if you're doing a skill or an activity, the ideal principle is applicable. If you want to modify a skill or an activity, so to make it easier or harder, what could you do? And we use this acronym called STEPR. Okay, so what is it? So you might make the space bigger or smaller, depending on your group and the ability of your group. You might change the time. Okay, so you want to kind of give more intensity to a drill or activity, so you might give a shorter time. you might widen the time. You might give more time to the activity, okay, to probably increase their fitness levels, or whatever it may be. E is equipment in terms of you might have smaller balls, you might have bigger balls, you might have bean bags if you're with the younger group, you might have cones, you might have larger cones if you're dealing with a younger group. So again, your equipment, adapt the equipment to suit the ability of your group. Players, you might have more players or less players. You might have an activity where you might have a 3v3. You might go to 7v7. It might be 9v9. So again, the task is going to be modified based on the numbers you have in your activity and the rules of the task. For example, you might want to work on move the ball fast. So, okay, guys, everybody, you're only allowed 3 seconds on the ball. And you got to move it on. Or you're only allowed 1 hop, 1 solo in this game. So there's a condition on the game. The rules have changed because you want to modify the skill or the activity. So there are 2 things if you take away from the webinar: the ideal principle in terms of how to, I suppose, coach or teach a skill or activity, and how to modify would be the step bar principle. So all you need to know in terms of feedback, in terms of skills of the game, is head, hands, feet. What are the players' head, hands, and feet are doing? Irrespective of what level you're coaching, that's all you need to know. You don't need to go get any more complex than that. It's just the head, hands, and feet. What we're going to go through now are all the skills of ladies football, and we'll go through the head, hands, feet for all these. So with the fist pass, hand pass, with the catching, which is the high catch, the body catch, the chest catch. With kicking, with the punt kick and the hook kick, with pick up, blocking, tackling, evasion, and soloing. All the videos for these skills are available on our website, www.ladiesgaelic.ie. I'm going to go through them now in more detail around the skills and what is you're looking for. So if you look at the hand pass, I'm going to play the hand pass here. Basically, all you need to know for the hand pass is head, eye in the ball. Place the ball on the hand that is, that you write with. So if you write with your right hand, place the ball on the right hand. Strike the ball with your left hand. Okay, so again, the ball that's on your hand doesn't move. That hand doesn't move, and the other hand is like a pendulum in terms of the swing. Closed fist or open hand. Strike the ball. Step into it. So feet, step into it. So eye on the ball. Place the ball on the hand. Make sure the hand doesn't move. That's key because a lot of players will probably throw the ball up or move that hand. It's very important that the hand with the ball that's on does not move. The only hand that moves is the striking hand in a pendulum format. Closed fist or open hand, and with your feet you just step into it. So I'll just show you it again. Eye on the ball, strike the ball. If you want more distance and accuracy, get more follow through in the strike and step into it. These are great visuals that you could use with players if they want to see it being done. If there's no problem at all, you can send it down to players and show them what it looks like as well. The next one's a pickup. Again, very simplistic. Let's keep it simple. Eye on the ball, head. Hands. Place one hand in front of the ball, one hand behind the ball, and scoop the ball into your chest. Because when the ball is in your chest, you cannot be tackled. Place 1 foot beside the ball and pick the ball up. So here we go again with the pickup. Eyeing the ball, one hand in front of the other, 1 foot beside the ball, and pick the ball up and into your chest. With the pickup, it's vitally important both knees are off the ground. You cannot have one or both knees on the ground when you're picking up the ball. So it's vitally important that your both knees are off the ground when you're picking the ball up off the ground. Next is the high catch. So again, very simplistic. Keep your eye on the ball, hands over the head, outstretched with slight bending of the elbows, and lead with the legs you kick with. So raise your knee up to hip height and grab the ball at the highest point, making sure your hands are in a W shape. So eye on the ball, hands in a W shape, hands over the head, elbows slightly bent, and catch the ball at the highest point. Raise your I suppose the leg that you normally play or kick the ball with up onto the hip height and catch the ball. So just look at it one more time. Very simplistic in nature. Keys to keep the eye on the ball. Keys to try and catch the ball at the highest point and raise one of your legs up to knee height to get you off the ground and give you that high catch. Next one's the body catch. Again, it's eye on the ball. Very simplistic. Keep your eye on the ball. Hands out as if you're a bear hug. Okay, bring the ball into your chest. And again, always practice these on the move. stepping into the ball, stepping into the ball at all times. Okay, so again, eyeing the ball, hands out like a bear hug, bring the ball into your chest and step into the ball. That's key. Always practice these skills on the move. Next one, unless you're with really younger kids and they have to do it walking or maybe static, there's no problem as well. So punt kick again, eyeing the ball, place the ball on the hand you're kicking with. Okay, put your other hand out for balance and point your toe down with your foot. So again, place the ball in the hand you're kicking with, point your hand out for balance, the other hand out for balance, and point your toe down. Very simplistic in terms of nature of your explanation of the skill. What you don't want to see, I suppose, guys, is dropping the ball with the opposite hand on the opposite foot. If that happens, you can give a key teaching point to say for better balance and for better direction. You're dropping the ball with the hand you kick it with is no problem. If it was a younger age group, they might drop the ball with two hands. That's absolutely no problem as well until they get more used to it. If a player continues to drop the ball with the opposite hand on the opposite foot, then that's no problem. If they're comfortable with that, there's no hassle. All you can do as a coach is give them advice and guidance on how they can improve it. And for balance and probably less likely to get dispossessed, obviously dropping the ball with the hand you're kicking with is probably more beneficial. The solo, again, and displayed here, eyeing the ball, head, hands, drop the ball with the hand that you're kicking with, okay? Try not, I suppose, lean the upper body down towards the solo, making sure the leg comes to meet the ball, point the your toe towards you, and bring the ball back into your chest. Common error here, as I say, guys, is you're leaning forward for the solo, making sure you bring the leg up, meets the ball, and kicks the ball back into your chest. Okay, so that's important. Drop the ball with the hand you're kicking with, and bring the ball back into your chest. Again, very simplistic in terms of your teaching points. And when you're observing the kids and the players, these are the only things you need to be looking at. So with a block down, probably a lot of kids or a lot of coaches don't practice the block down enough. So again, head, eye in the ball. That's key now because a lot of players will probably look away. So it's important you keep your eye on the ball. Two hands together and try and block the ball at the lowest point or the nearest point to the boot. Okay, step in with your near leg. Hands close together, not apart because the ball will go through it and probably hit you in the face. So it's vitally important that you keep those hands together and very important you keep your eye on the ball and step into it. If you're with younger players, you can use a softball or a sponge ball, or they can start by kneeling down and doing it by kneeling down and the person on the ball is throwing the ball in the air. So there's many ways you can adapt this activity, thinking back to our step-R model in terms of the task, that you can modify to make it easier or harder. Next one is the near hand tackle. Again, cannot dispossess a player when the ball's in the body. So when the ball's out of the body, you keep your eye on the ball, you use your near hand. This is what we advocate because you're less likely to give away a foul. There is other tackles out there, but in terms of the most efficient tackle, this one is what we advocate. So eye on the ball, use your near hand, tap the ball away when the ball is presented to you. So that's when the ball's out of the body, whether it be a solo or a hop or even just out of the body in general, and step in with your near leg to hit the ball away. Again, if you're teaching younger kids, you might start this by walking, just tapping the ball with the near hand, tap the ball out, in a walking motion, into a jogging motion, and then onto probably higher intensity. So it's very important, guys. Know the level of the kids or the ability of the kids you're coaching, and make sure you modify to suit. So what did we learn in part 2? So we looked at the role of the coach and the assistant coach, and I said if you want to there's loads of roles that the coaches play, but if you were to break it down to 6 key competencies, they are build rapport with your audience, with your players, give a good demonstration, explain but keep it very simplistic, give feedback, observe and analyze and make decisions. So they're the top key in terms of competencies of the coach. And the key teaching points of the skills is what we looked at. Again, don't make it complex. Keep it simple. Watch the hand, watch the hands, and watch the feet. And if you do that well, then you'll be doing very well as a coach. So the final part is the coaching on the pitch stuff. So the coach-to-player ratios for Ladies Gaelic Football or in Gaelic games in general is from our code of behaviour. And again, that can be accessed on our website, www.ladiesgaelic.ie. The ratio for up to under 12 is 1 coach to 8. So going back to my point I made earlier on about your club coaching program, it's vitally important you loads of volunteers to help regarding this coach to player ratio. So 1 to 8 is what you're looking at. So one coach to 8 players up to under 12. And then under 12 upwards, we're looking at a good coaching environment looks at 1 coach to 10 players. So I would be recommending you have at least 4 involved in each of your coaching cohorts where possible to make that happen. Stages of learning, just be aware of the early stage, intermediate stage, and advanced stage. And irrespective of what coaching cohort you're coaching, players could dip in and out of these at various age groups and various stages. So in the early stage, if you're trying something new with the older group or even with the young ones, the young players, there's going to be a lot of error. You know, the players are going to experience a lot of errors in what you're trying to do. But you as a coach, just make sure you do a good demonstration and plenty of demonstrations. Give good verbal cues, but keep it very simple. Giving that feedback and do it with no opposition. So if you're doing something new with an older age group, then obviously keep it simple. Don't have no opposition. And the same with younger age groups. Just start very simplistic in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Because if it's something new, there will be a lot of errors. So how do you make it as easy as possible? Intermediate stages where the player is a bit more confident, getting more confident in what we're doing. I kind of get a better understanding of the skill or the activity. So you as a coach can be a bit more organized in that sense and probably just structure the situations, maybe with an opponent now, maybe just shadowing or walking beside them, wherever it may be. The advanced stage now is where the player is automatic, comes without even thinking. They're automatic in the conduct of the skill or the activity without even thinking. So you as a coach can be more advanced in your scenarios, in your activities. But as a coach, just be aware of where every player is at, and irrespective of what coaching cohort you coach, players are going to dip in out of these early, intermediate, and advanced stages at various stages. It all depends on what is you're trying to do in an individual session. If it's something more complex, then players will get it faster than others. So therefore, just be aware of those stages and adapt your coaching style to suit. A lot of players learn by seeing, so they just see, they want to see the demonstration, they want to see it on a whiteboard, they might want to see a video, they might want to see a skill card, so they can get it by visually seeing it happening. Other players like to hear the explanations, and so therefore be very specific in your explanations. Be very, clear in that, and don't over-complex the whole thing. So they want to hear those instructions. And others, they may see the demonstration, they may hear what you're saying, they might not hear what you're saying, but you know what, they need to actually feel it. So they need to walk through to see what it feels like, to guide them through the movement. They might have to see their peers doing the activity first before they actually see, okay, now I get it. Yes, I now know what needs to happen. And they might have to try the skill first. So just be aware of where players learn in different ways and the learning preferences. So you as a coach, just be wary that you may have to ensure to give you demonstration, where's the visual, give clear explanations, which is audio, and the feel in terms of the activities that they're doing. They probably need to do it before they can progress on. So in your coaching session, just a few key principles. Have a clear plan, as I said earlier on. What is it you're trying to achieve in the session? Today we're going to work on kicking. Now there might be other skills in the game, obviously, or in the activity, or in the session, but the key role here we're going to work on our kicking. But also everybody knows their role. So if you're working in a station, what is my role? Is my role just to stand with a group? Is my role to go through the activity? What is my role? What do you expect of me in this area? And that's the job of the lead coach. Have a specific objective, as I outlined. Activities need to be specific and related to your objective. Okay, so if you're working on the kick pass, then the activities should be related to something around the kick pass, whereby you're working on that. Maybe your condition game might be, after a hand pass, you must kick it. As simplistic as that. Maybe one station might be just all working on kicking while moving. You need to have continuous and progressive flow. And I'll show you how that you can do that in sessions in a few minutes. You need to keep players active. So work, rest, ratio. So it's important. Like when we say keep players active, it doesn't mean they have to keep going from the minute they come into the gate to when they finish. There has to be that work, rest ratio. But the rest is, I suppose, that they're not lounging around for too long. That it's probably a minute break, it might be 40 seconds break, okay? That they're getting that rest, they can do the activities well. And only stop when you know what you want to say. There's no point stopping something for the sake of stopping it. Only stop something when you need to say something. And I would say you need to only stop sessions, I'd say 3 times, maximum 3 times a whole session, where you want to give feedback, specific feedback to what you're trying to do. Have a good session structure, what it looks like, and we'll go through that in a minute, and the relevant equipment. And all you need is football, bibs, and cones. You don't need anything more complex than that. To do a good session, all you need is footballs, bibs, and you could probably nearly get away with no cones if you're dealing with the older age groups. But with younger age groups, obviously cones are important for direction and just helping with the structure of the session. So football, bibs, and cones is all you require. So what could this session look like? So here's just a few examples. Keep it simple and be flexible. That's what I would say anyway. So have a plan, have an idea. Keep it very simple in structure, but be flexible in your plan. You may have an idea of what it is you want to try to do, but it might be because of numbers turned up on the day. It might be because of, they might be not just getting the activity. So be flexible in that sense. I always say at the start, have unstructured play or chat. Let the kids, they come, they meet their friends, they want to socialize, let them have a chat with their friends. So you might say, right, training's at 7:30, between 7:15 and 7:30, chat time. Come and chat with your friends. Have a chat. Warm up, general warm up, dynamic warm up. It's a fun warm up. It's including loads of movement, whatever it may be, and a bit of fun, irrespective of what age you're with. So the younger age groups, it could be a fun game like tails or tag or whatever it may be. Always in every session, I always would advocate this with underage teams: movement quality. So what I mean by movement quality is the ability to run, to jump, to land, to change direction. So that could be jumping over cones, fast feet. It could be going out to a cone and changing direction. It could be stopping. It could be going backwards and forwards. So that movement quality is very important. You can do that in stations, which I'll show in a minute. Skill development, obviously, small-sided games, and for maximum impact, small-sided games are more preferable because there's more interaction between the players and more interaction between the player and the coach or the assistant coach that's helping. Okay, so that's vitally important. Have a game. Every player that wants to come wants to play games. Okay, so ensure there's some sort of a game involved in your session. Okay, and I'll show you how you can integrate that in different ways in a minute. And always leave with a fun activity. Always finish with a fun activity. Always finish where kids are going out the door smiling and joking and laughing. So always finish with a fun activity. But I'll show you how this session could look like now. So here's one whereby, again, that unstructured play. What I mean by that as well is that as players come in, you can have your pitches set up. Okay, you might say, right, the first player comes in, okay, they start kicking points over the bar with the ball. Then another player comes in, okay, they get a different bib each, and they start taking on each other one-on-one. Then another few players come in, and they start playing a game on 3-and-3, and just let them at it. As players come in, let them select the teams, let them play. So from 7:15 to 7:30, it's unstructured play. We have the pitches set up, just play football. Go on away. Do what you want to do, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3. Yeah, off you go. With no interaction from the coaches, let the players play. Then you do your warm-up, obviously, but then you can do your movement and quality station, and you do your small-sided games. So you do your movement quality. Now you break up the small-sided games. Okay, you stop the activity. You kind of go through what you want to coach. If the kicking is not great because the kicking drill, you can do a small kicking activity and go back and play the game again. So it's like a coach. It's like a play, whereby let them play, observe what you see, fix what needs to be fixed, and go back and let them play it again and see the measure of the improvement that they're doing. Finish with a game and a fun activity as outlined. Here's another example. Assign the groups. So give them all their bibs before they start. So you have the groups assigned. Okay, they all have their bibs. There's no more change of the bibs throughout the session. You do your warm-up, which could be dynamic, which is on our website, guys, and on which I'll show you around where you can get all these ideas. And you get 4 stations. So set 4 stations. One station where they play football. So if there's 10 in a group or 5 in a group or whatever it may be, they're just playing football. So there's 2 goals and they're just playing normal football game because they want to come play a game. The other station could be condition games, right? Okay, there's no goals, but there might be condition whereby after every hand pass, you must kick pass. So that's a condition game working on the kick passing. Okay, a team building activity. So it could be very simplistic. Could be whereby they might have to, as a group, get a ball from one area to another area without dropping it. Have a bit of fun. So interact with each other. And that's where you find out about your leaders and who your leaders are in your group. And then you do a movement quality station where you might just do fast feet through the cones, running out, changing direction, stopping and starting. And you can also do a bit of skill work into that as well. So you can do a situation where they run out, stop, go backwards, and run out again and pick up a ball. That could be a movement station with a skill element to it as well. And then finish with your fun activity. So that's kind of a station outline of a session, whereby they're working stations. They work for, say, 5-6 minutes in each station, and they rotate around. And everybody's getting an opportunity to do all the activities and get a sense of variety. Then another one here is, again, assign your groups, do your warm-up, again, a dynamic warm-up or fun warm-up or whatever it may be. Play a game. play your two games. So if you have 20 players, do 5v5 in one pitch, 5v5 in another pitch, and let them play football. Just play a normal game of football. Observe what you see in the game and then bring them in to stations, right? So you have a conditioned game set up to work on something you saw in the game, okay? So today, guys, our hand passing is not that great. So we're going to work on a condition, so whereby it's only hand pass only. So they do a team building game. Again, the importance of interacting with each other, and they do their moving quality station. Now they rotate around and then they go back and play the game again. So they always ask for a game to start. Well, why not start with a game? Okay, so start with a game, let them go to their stations and finish with a game. And then obviously then you have you finish off your session there. Okay, so there are just a few ideas of how it could look like, or how a session could look like. There's various ways you can structure a session. Here's what it could look like in a pitch. So if you look at here on the left, I have my two pitches set up. Okay, pitch one, pitch two. So when we're playing the football matches at the end, they're all ready to go. They're all laid out. I have the warm-up area on the top right. Since we're going to do our icebreaker, our tag game, or our dynamic warm-up over here. That's our station there. Then we're going to have our three stations set up. We have our condition game, we're going to have our moving quality, and we're going to have our skill development. So they rotate around. So if we have 20 players, or whatever it may be, 24 players, we divide them into three, and they work in groups of three, and they rotate around after 7-8 minutes, or whatever it may be in your session. And then they finish off with their games at the end. And again, with the pitches set up, again, going back to unstructured play. For the first 15 minutes, let the players go onto the pitches. Let them set up their own little teams. Let them play football. Okay, so that's all set up for them as well. So that's just an idea of how a pitch could look like. It's all set up, ready to go. And if you're a lead coach, you could be in the middle here, and all your assistant coaches could be helping you with the stations. So you can be observing what's going on in each of the stations while your assistant coaches are working with the small groups in the station. So again, that small group is very important. It improves player interaction and also coach interaction. It gets players to engage more in the session rather than having big groups and big numbers. Okay, so that's just an idea of how it could look like. So what we learn in part 3 in terms of coach, understanding the key stages of learning, that players will learn differently, and they're at different stages, and that could happen in any age group, different levels of learning in terms of their stage of development. And how do we structure a session? As I said, I showed you a few examples of how that looks like, but again, you can organize it to suit your numbers and to suit the area that you have in your pitch. So just to finish off, where can you get more information? On our www.ladiesgaelic.ie/learn. We have skill cards. The skill videos I showed earlier on are on there. We have our Pell magazine. We have a weekly newsletter. We have a skills booklet. So if players want to go home and practice their skills with their parents or their guardians, they can log it. And they're very, very interesting. Give a look at them on our website. We have a nursery booklet there as well, and a goalkeeping resources. So guys, they're all there for you in terms of resources and stuff on our website. So please, when you get time, give a look at it and see will they help you in what you're trying to do. But it's all about building a rapport and a connection with your players as well. And then you have also the www.learning.ga.ie/planner. So if you want to get even more activities, whatever age group you're learning, whether it be 4-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, whatever it may be, this is a fantastic resource whereby they give you the activity, explain how to do the activity. They have a video of the activity, how to actually modify the activity using Stepper in terms of space and your time and your equipment and your player and your rules and task. It also gives a skill card, so you can print them out and bring them with you. You can actually even plan your session here on these. You can print out what your session looks like and give it to your assistant coaches, and they could know what they're doing before they come in the morning. So again, another resource that I would advocate for you to look at. So before I finish up in terms of best practice, it's important that anybody getting involved with coaching children should have a vetting, should be vetted, should have their safeguarding 1 program done, Gaelic Games program done, have a basic coaching qualifications from an LGFA point of view. That's our fundamentals. The Ray City Coach program looks at the basics of coaching, but is not certified, whereby they would allow you to assist in terms of moving cones or doing attendance lists and things like that. But in terms of if you want to coach in your session and be an assistant coach in terms of doing actual coaching and only coaching only, you need to do the fundamentals. Member, abide by the coach best practice. Okay, be a member of the club. Now you're abiding by the coach best practice and the coaching philosophy. You're signing up to that, and you're being a mentor and support. So therefore, always helping others to be the best they can be. So basically that's it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this webinar where we looked at the basics of, I suppose, around the coaching environment in your club and the basics around coaching in general. All you do now is Get out there and try it. Give it a go. Give it a go. Make loads of mistakes and keep learning, because in a coaching journey, you will never ever reach the end. I think coaching is one area where it's always evolving. So always seek to improve and be better than you were yesterday. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. My name is William Harmon. I'm National Development Officer for Ladies Football with a remit for coach education. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you.